On the way to the hospital, but it's only just begun. This is Crime Watch. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Bill Kohanek of the Buena Park Police Department. Sergeant Kohanek, I know it's always tough when your house gets burglarized. It's such a violation of your privacy. But this particular situation has another side to it that's just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, this is a single retired citizen, and her loved ones were stolen, and that's got to be the toughest part of this. So you're right about the entering your own home while you're not there, but losing your dogs in this case has to be very traumatic.
Now, explain exactly how this whole burglary happened, because even the events surrounding it are just a little bit more unusual than I think what you'd expect.
They often are. We're off of Stanton in our city, and it's a residence that backs up to Stanton in a small side street in our flower track. This is a single-family dwelling on a busy street, and the burglary occurred during the daylight hours, between the hours of 10 and noon. So it's not that uncommon to have burglaries during the day. A lot of times, as we've talked about before, burglars will go around and knocking on doors and seeing who may or may not be home at that time of the day for them to strike. The suspects apparently used a side window that's behind a large brick wall on the side of the house to gain entry. They broke the window and forced the window open. That's how they gained entry, and that's how they also took all the property from the house, because both doors were dead bolted, so they could not leave through the doors.
So there may have been something that somebody driving down the street or living in the area might or might not have seen, but right now, who knows? But tell me about the dogs that were taken.
Evidently, there were 4 Yorkie show dogs. 3 were puppies, only 7 weeks old, a new litter. And another one was a older adult Yorkie dog that had some health issues. And the owner's very concerned that that dog, without given the proper medication and the diet that's required, probably won't last too long. So there's obviously some urgency on our residents' part, and so much so that a reward has begun. Evidently, she began the reward, and it has climbed and climbed and climbed from donors and from friends of hers who've offered monetary proceeds. Now it's totaling $20,000 for a reward for the recovery of these dogs.
And I'm sure to the owner, the money's not the point. It's getting these little puppies and this older dog that needs medical attention that she's probably sure no one even knows what to do with the poor little dog.
Yeah, I'm sure that one of the things that the monetary proceeds will do is get media attention, and that's obviously a big key in this case. Getting it out on all the local television shows and radio, newspapers, that will certainly get some attention, and that information will be sent around. In fact, we just spoke to the victim, and she even said she just got a call while we were there that someone had just purchased a Yorkie puppy and was concerned that it might be one of hers. So that person is going to bring that dog down, and she's going to try to see if she can identify it.
Which is great that somebody evidently has heard about the story, and they're trying to help it, maybe close it all up. How traumatic for this poor woman. I mean, it's really just not fair.
Sure, it would be bad enough just to have your home burglarized, to have strangers in your house going through your personal belongings, your drawers, and not only that, to take things that you would consider very prized possessions both of monetary value as well as, the dogs, which obviously mean a lot emotionally.
So when it's early in the morning, or really not that early, maybe a lot of people aren't at home, but if you do happen to be home during the day, what should you do as a person in your neighborhood to keep your eyes out, just so somebody's not a victim, if you can make any difference?
That's a great point. I think probably one of the best things you could do is know your neighbors, know their hours, and be willing to act on something that you see suspicious. It's unusual to see somebody coming around knocking on doors. It's more unusual to see them jumping a fence into your neighborhood. But that is often how it starts. And it typically is just a simple call to police 911 indicating something of that suspicious of a nature gets us out here. In fact, right across the street, right behind us, just nearly a month ago, we caught 3 residential burglaries, almost the same circumstances. They were breaking into a house in the same neighborhood and stole valuables, and a heads-up neighbor called us, reported what they saw, and we caught them right across the street at that stop sign over there. And it was quite a big scene to stop those suspects. They were all taken out at gunpoint, and I'm so glad that they were captured. These ones, I think, are our next targets.
You were mentioning a little earlier off camera about cars being hit for a certain thing that I'm not that familiar with, and it has something to do with the seat in the car.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to have car burglaries occurring, particularly in crowded parking lots of SUV vehicles like this one behind me. Very often what's taken is simply the back seat. The back seat of a car is a simple resale item, something that they can steal quickly. It doesn't have identifying characteristics, meaning they can't prove later on that that particular seat was in that particular vehicle, typically. And there's a good resale value for suspects. I think the going rate on these rear car seats can be anywhere between $500 and $2,000 to replace one of these car seats.
Now, you mentioned the rear car seat. Is that the normal back seat that everybody has in their car?
Yeah, in SUV vehicles like the one behind me, there's a third row of seats, and typically those pop out very quickly and very easily. So there's the folks that would like to have those and often buy them used, so there's a market for that. And then when someone does get one stolen, then they have to go to an insurance company and pay their deductible. Sometimes their deductible covers it and sometimes it doesn't. And then there's, of course, damage on the entry of the vehicle. Typically, it's a door lock mechanism that's popped open to gain entry to the vehicle.
Now, this particular incident that happened recently was actually at somebody's residence?
No, this one was actually at a Radisson Hotel, one of our hotels in our city. But it's not uncommon to have it at Knott's Berry Farm, at the mall, anywhere that there are lots of vehicles from which suspects can choose from. We've had a rash. This has been an ongoing problem. It seems to come and go in crime trends, but it's been occurring the last few years.
And you mentioned because they're doing it in this crowded parking lot that it's not making a lot of noise and it happens very quickly?
We just captured one at the Radisson Hotel, and it was captured on closed-circuit television. So we have a photograph of the suspect vehicle that was used. It was actually a BMW, a pretty nice suspect.
They're doing good with the third row
They're
seats.
obviously doing okay there. And they were shown coming and going, stealing the rear seat in a matter of 30 seconds.
And that's in getting in the vehicle as well?
Getting in the vehicle, breaking the lock, getting the vehicle, removing the seat, putting it in their vehicle, and driving away. 30 seconds.
Now, we're standing in front of this vehicle because it has a third row seat.
Yes.
Do you want to show us what it looks like? Or?
Yeah, I want to show you how quickly it is. I'm obviously not going to destroy someone's lock here, but I can show you up at the driver's door if you'll walk with me. Even though this is a newer vehicle and typically you'd think it's a very secure vehicle, this door lock can be pretty easily bypassed by typically a either a screwdriver or a dent puller, and that's a pull that has a small weight on it. Typically it's used to remove dents from vehicles, and they would stick that in there with a screw on the end of the dent puller, and one pop of the dent puller, very quiet actually, pops that entire door lock mechanism out, and they'll be able to gain access to the vehicle.
Oh, that made me feel so much better.
It's unfortunate, even with an alarm, as you can imagine, typically someone's not going to pay much attention within 30 seconds to an alarm going off. It's just going to be a nuisance sound. So the alarm isn't going to really be a whole lot of help, especially in quick as they are. But once they get the door open, they hit the unlock button for all of the doors, and then they have access to the back.
And the alarm is stopped.
Yeah, the alarm, even if the alarm is going, that's not going to deter the suspects in these cases. They're just going to go on with business and act as normal as possible. Even if someone looks out the window, by the time they think about what's going on, react to it, call 911, it's typically going to be too late.
And then just taking the row of seats out is an easy thing to do?
Yeah, we'll go back and take a look at that. Again, the door's already been unlocked. Sometimes they'll go through the center console or glove compartment real quickly and look for any valuables that might be there. If they don't find any, they'll sometimes find a GPS device or something. But once they get entry to the back, it's just a matter of seconds. One or two levers that they pull, and believe me, they know it, and the seat comes right out. So
and it's not that heavy.
No, it's not, and it's small. And in this case, it fit into the back of a BMW as the suspect vehicle. So those get stolen very quickly. And they would grab the second one, of course, and take another second, as you just saw, and away they are. They're gone, and that's going to cost this victim about at least $1,000 to $1,500.
If they can find the one that fits into this car, because probably the car manufacturers switch them up every year just to make sure, you can't cross over and use a different year.
It would be a headache regardless.
And so, is there anything anybody can do about this besides sleep in their car?
There's really not a lot that can be done about this, except beware of your surroundings, beware of where you park. Park as close as you can if you're going to be in a public place to the front entry where there are employees present. Sometimes when folks have these nicer vehicles and they're a little larger, they park them really out far in the parking lot.
Yeah, because you don't want anybody to scratch it.
You don't want to get door dings. But unfortunately, that's a easy spot for a suspect to park next to and then do their business.
in Rosecrans, and obviously somebody got hit here.
Yeah, this is pretty serious auto versus pedestrian collision. This is Rosecrans in front of Clark Regional Park. It's one of our northernmost sections of the city. And so our first concern, as you could see, we were the first to arrive tonight, was to both assess the injuries of the patient as well as try to maintain the perimeter and keep those witnesses, people that might have seen any part of the collision, to remain on scene. Then our next priority was to get the fire personnel, the Orange County Fire paramedics, to begin treatment of the patient. And then lastly, we had to determine jurisdiction, because we share jurisdiction with the city of Fullerton in this area. So you probably saw us working on some map books. We also used some GPS inside of a vehicle, because you really need to determine as finite as possible where the actual collision occurred, and that would determine jurisdiction, both for report writing purposes and for the amount of personnel and staffing that will require on a scene like this over the next several hours.
Well, you know, what was interesting is that, as we heard on the radio getting over here, Fullerton was also on the way, Buena Park was on the way, you saw Orange County Fire Authority, we saw Fullerton Fire Department. And even though, like you're mentioning, those jurisdictional issues are there, the first priority was the patient. And it was interesting to see how many fire personnel were involved, as well as Fullerton and Buena Park shutting this street down, because there were a lot of cars on the street who thought they were going from over there to over there.
Yeah, they were locked in here pretty good, and they basically just have to be told that they can't go this way tonight, and that's difficult because someone might just live half a mile up the street, and it might be quite a ways out of their way. But at this point, what's most important is the patient, her welfare, and any evidence. As you could see, evidence located on the ground behind us. It's imperative that that's kept safe and secure where it lied. That will assist the officers in the investigation.
So we still see Fullerton and Buena Park here. Has it been decided actually whose jurisdiction this is yet?
Yes, at this point, Fullerton is accepting the condition that the collision is theirs, and they are calling out the resources that would be necessary to investigate this. Because of the serious injuries of the patient, we as a Buena Park agency would be calling out our fatal investigation team. And I'm pretty sure that Fullerton has something very similar. It's a core group of very experienced investigators who deal with auto traffic collisions.
On a situation like this, especially because Buena Park was first on scene, do you have to write a report for Fullerton or write something because of your involvement, even though it ends up not being Buena Park's situation?
It would really depend on what level of involvement I had. If I had gotten a statement from somebody that was key, if the patient had said something before she passed out, then it would be a key to have that direct first-hand knowledge. But in this case, no. All I really did was assist in coordinating the scene. There's really no imperative value what my role was, except to help coordinate the kind of chaos at the beginning. And all I will do is provide my name and a number for their reports to indicate that I was the first on scene.
You mentioned chaos, and it's interesting just to watch as a bystander, because there was chaos, and I could see all these things running through in your head. You had parked the police car in a position that was going to be protecting the situation, but you also saw that there were cars down there trying to get through, cars down this way that were being the looky-loo on the other side of the street, and you have the patient in the street with citizens who were or were not witnesses but were helping them. And for one person to be able to control all of that, fortunately, other help arrived quickly.
Yeah, especially since we did have resources coming from two different cities. We did get plenty of support here. We had a unit behind us who got here very quickly, and the first job I requested them to do was to close the roadway. So then they turned around and left the scene and went back to the nearest intersection to stop traffic at that point. But yeah, it's just one of the many details that a first responder has to coordinate when they get to a scene like this.
And it's good to see just everybody's working together, Fullerton and Buena Park. You know, your jobs may be very similar, but you work for different cities, and yet, you know, you can work together.
And we certainly have our own responsibilities and primarily want to care for our city. But in a case like this, when we're sharing jurisdiction, and it does take quite a few resources, both investigating the scene and closing the roadways, we'll be more than happy to help provide assistance. And I'm sure they would have for us had we determined that this is our scene.
If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901. As always, check us out on the internet at bppd.com. With Sergeant Bill Kohanek of the Buena Park Police Department, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like us on the official City of Buena Park Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. There you'll find a little of everything from information about our city services and upcoming events to discounts offered by our entertainment attractions such as Knott's Berry Farm, Medieval Times, and Pirates Dinner Adventure.